Okay, moving on to our next topic. Understand what is a strong plan and how you can make this happen.
So, Family Advocacy's Plan Tips Fact Sheet steps you through the preparation for a planning meeting, a plan reassessment, or plan variation. It's also relevant that when preparing for an internal review or an external review at the AAT. Mandy is going to briefly touch on the 10 steps within the fact sheet.
So we're not going to go through all of them today, but I'd like to bring up step 4. So collaboration with your therapy and allied health supports focuses on a social model outcomes, which we'll go through later, with therapy embedded in typical everyday life experiences in real time and real environments. Evidence and reports should align with your vision and NDIS goals. Trying to find creative, enjoyable ways to achieve therapy outcomes that links to your goals. So it's a really good step to spend a lot of time in, I think. And you get easier, and it gets easier and easier every time you do this. Looking at step 6, write a statement of lived experience. For some of you, you may have done this before, or a carer's impact statement. Others, it may be new to you. A planner or an LAC usually have no connection at all with you. They don't know your lives. They don't know your family member. And they don't know your life or the positive or negative things that impact you. So this is where you get to tell your story and your vision of what's important to you and your family. For families, tell your story in a manner that does not demonize your family member, but it talks to their strengths and vision of what's important to them and what's important for them. Try and identify what a good day looks like and what supports are needed to have continued good days. Identify the supports needed for this to be valued and safeguarded, but also allow the dignity of risk to enjoy a good life. Families can also talk to how they can be supported to sustaining their role as an informal support as a family member. Both participants and families can highlight the risks, but also to talk about the good things. We love based narrative. And then another one we'd like to walk through these ones. Step 8, regardless of all the documents you are providing, we recommend summarizing this to make it really, really clear. So LACs and planners who are not familiar can join the dots. I presume they're reading thousands of these constantly. You want to make yours stand out and be really clear. However you do that is up to you. Whether it's color-coded or points, etc. We talk about this in a minute. The links are evident and evidence back to the goals and reports. And it may be worthwhile contacting the NDIA to ensure all your evidence has actually been received and attached to the participant's file, so they're not lost in transit somewhere. Step 9, you've gone to the trouble of making a vision of your family member. Now it's time that people read it. So if the planner has not yet read your vision during your planning meeting, give them a chance to read it before the meeting begins. And step 10, reflect on the vision and your participants' voice at all levels when preparing for a meeting, whatever that looks like in your family.
I think it's also important, Mandy, that if you think about the length of the vision, it's probably advisable for the vision that you present to the NDIA that it not be any more than an A4 page, because you want them to make sure that they read it all. We know that they struggle reading all the reports. So I think having it at a maximum of an A4, you can have longer documents for other areas of life, but for the planning process, I think that's helpful.
Yeah, nice one. So our next slide talks about different ways you can manage your plan. There's agency managed, plan managed, and self-managed. And you can have 1, 2, or all 3 options in the one plan, depending on what suits you and your situation. Self-managing is something you can go and learn. You can learn on the go. So you can request to manage your plan and have supports funded to help you do so. That's good to know that you can actually get funded to help you self-manage. Regardless of how your plan is managed, we advise everybody that you request invoices, also sent to you and also is filed by yourself correctly. You will then be able to ask and ask for explanations about any discrepancies that do happen. We say it's best to always assume incorrect invoices are honest mistakes, but you're following up on them, and you can ask for a timeline from the provider to make any necessary amendments. So yeah, 3 different ways of doing it, and lots
And
of
self-managed gives you a lot more choice and control as well. Yeah.
So this document is quite detailed, but it's a flowchart that we've put together for when you are wondering if something is reasonable and necessary, with the 6 NDIA criteria at the top, along the top. You can work through this with your family member to determine what supports you are seeking and whether they will be considered to be reasonable and necessary. Jo's going to go through an example at the moment for you.
Yeah, so living a life filled with traditional therapy is not really living. So think creatively when it comes to engaging supports. For example, Rachel requires a significant amount of therapy, but is not motivated to do it just because someone says she has to. So every week, Rachel attends pole dancing it's an athletic sport. Her therapy team, OT, speech and physio work with the pole instructor to include much of her therapy within her pole dancing sessions. So Rachel requires regular practice to build muscle memory, learning new moves and practice to retain them. So the speech pathologist and the occupational therapist have worked on posture for communication. The physio is building new muscle memory and maintaining it. It is about maintaining it. And Rachel has private pole sessions to build her muscle memory and the skills to join the class, where she will be spending building friendships. So the class is actually focused on relationships, but she's building the skills to attend the class in the private sessions. We have considered what is reasonable and necessary, and we use her NDIS funding for the private sessions, and Rachel pays for the group classes herself, just like the other dance students do. So pole dancing meets her plan goals. It's value for money, as private sessions are less than half the cost of therapy sessions, and they reduce and it also reduces the amount of therapy that she requires. Rachel's weeks are not filled with clinical therapy, and she is motivated to build and maintain her physical and mental well-being, enjoying life and building relationships. So the following 2 slides are of a resource example we are able to provide families if they contact us. This resource was the original resource was developed from the report of the Independent Advisory Council to the NDIS Disability Insurance Scheme, reasonable and necessary support across a lifespan, and it's titled An Ordinary Life of People with Disability. So I'm just going to go through 2 of the pages for this document, and this document you can contact us if you'd like to engage further around this document. So if we have a look, it comes from the appendices from the original Independent Advisory Council document. On the left-hand top corner, you can see the mouse and the key features of life stage. And in the next column, we have the adults 26 to 55. And these are the key features of the life stages of people in that age bracket who do not have disabilities. This is typical. The column on the left below, on the left underneath the issues is the historically, what are people with disability doing and still at risk of, or what were they doing and are still at risk of. This next column here has a lot of the circumstances and experiences of people with disability over historical times. So lack of capacity to grow skills in decision making, low self-esteem, isolation, spending time with older people and not so much age appropriate peers. So younger cohorts live with family, older cohorts living in group homes, and so on. So this next page is continuing on with these risks and experiences that people with disability have typically had to endure. So we've actually entered in the green parts of the slide here now. And so this is an example of Jane's NDIS goals. It's a pseudonym. We've just put something together for you as an example. So if we look across here, these are the goals. I'm not going to go through the goals in detail, but we're going to drop down to the white section here where it looks at strategies to promote relationships and belonging. And the middle column is some examples and things that need to happen here. So broaden social networks and develop social and relationship skills. So these are the things that are put in place to mitigate the risks from further up in that page. And then we've added the green as an example for Jane. So Jane is broadening her social networks and developing social skills and relationships. So how does she do that in real life? So these are some examples of what she does. Shop locally and regularly for opportunity to meet local community, attend, join and support local community members and events. Showcase my creations as a local business, creator and artist, stall holder at the markets. And so there's also something listed here that has not been achieved yet, but it's obviously a plan still to do and join a local business network group. So these activities that she's engaging in are addressing goals 1, 2, 3, and 4 from above here. And then the next slide under that goes on to talk about relationships and sexuality education to build capacity to make decisions and reduce vulnerabilities to exploitation. And again, this is an example of what Jane's been doing, continually building a strong group of friends who model right relationships, are fiercely striving for mainstream relationships and rejecting being grouped due to disability. Regularly connecting with friends and community art and dance groups in a variety of settings. And sorry, that actually continues and goes on to more examples in this for another 2 pages. So I'll move on from that now. These resources are available if you'd like to contact us.
So we saw the example of a 26 to 55-year-old there, but the document does have all the different ages in order. It's an amazing document. So what is a strong plan? It's going to look differently for everybody, but a strong plan addresses the key features of a person's life stage. It also mitigates any risks to a person with disability. A strong plan enables strategies to promote relationships and belonging, enhance autonomy. It promotes decision-making, social, economic, and cultural participation, and promotes contribution. Regardless of a person's disability, we believe everyone can achieve these with the right supports in place. And funding alone cannot mitigate risk.